Corset. When you hear this word, what images come to mind? Do you think of pain and suffering, or do you think of beauty? Do you think of protection, or do you think of shapeliness? Do you think of cleanliness or support? Do you think it might improve or impact a person's place in society? According to Webster's dictionary, a corset is a tightly fitting undergarment extending from the chest to the hips, worn to shape the figure. Textile experts believe the corset was used for shaping and supporting the bodies of both men and women. Elizabeth I ascended to the throne in 1533, and soon after introduced the corset to society. This innovation became a desired article of clothing for every fashionable woman of the day, and would continue to be so for more than 400 years. Originally, the corset was made of whalebone or metal and covered with fabric, usually linen, and if a person was of a higher social status, the fabric might be satin. Strips of whalebone were inserted and then stitched to the front and the back of the corset to provide structure. Sometimes a flat length of wood or steel would be laid across the front of the corset to flatten the abdomen of the wearer. Women wanted to achieve the appearance of an 18-inch waist. Since women of the upper classes in society did not need to work, they were able to wear the uncomfortable and restrictive corset day and night. Few of the working women in the lower classes were able to afford the costly corset. Those who could purchase one were only able to wear it on special occasions because it restricted movement and flexibility. Peer pressure within society increased its use, and soon corsets were adapted to fit the bodies of toddlers and girls, some of whom were made to wear the corsets during the day and even at night while they were sleeping. In 1888, a sensationalist magazine called The Family Doctor published an article entitled, "Tight Lacing, Does It Really Exist?" The article featured this chart, which lists the names, ages, size of waist, both with and without the corset, and a prescription for the amount of wearing time needed to achieve perfection. During the 17th century, many upper-class men wore corsets because they believed it would help them straighten their backs, thus giving the appearance of someone tall, upright, and in authority. Women, too, began to view the corset as an object that could impact their social status. A thin waist was equated with membership in the upper class, and women went to great lengths to ensure that a thin waist was possible, as demonstrated in this painting showing a husband, maid, and young servant all being called to task to tighten those laces. Corset manufacturers promoted their products through newspapers, ladies' magazines, and trading cards. The ads featured illustrations of corsets, women with the perfect hourglass figure, and curious ladies spying on a friend to figure out how Mrs. Brown achieved her perfect figure. Some were comical, as illustrated in this ad featuring a woman losing her torso from tying too tightly. In addition, women believed that the corset made them look alluring to the opposite sex, but in a socially acceptable manner, and that allure, as demonstrated in this illustration, could even lead to marriage. Women desired the smallest waist possible, irregardless of the discomfort or increasing knowledge of the corset's impacts on health. Creating a waist less than 18 inches took its toll on the body. Ribs were crushed, and internal organs such as lungs, heart, and those in the upper abdomen were displaced. Constipation, indigestion, shortness of breath, headaches, and fainting were some of the most common health impacts experienced by corset wearers. In 1793, a well-known physician named Samuel Thomas Van Summering announced the corset to be a health hazard and demonstrated it to be so by showing an illustration of a corseted and uncorseted female. Physical conditions related to the corset wear became known as Summering's syndrome. Other physicians came forward linking the corset with scoliosis, a curvature of the spine, tuberculosis, and hiatal hernia, a condition where part of the stomach protrudes into the chest. Despite these warnings and symptoms, women would continue to wear the corset for more than 100 years. The industrialization of the late 1800s brought changes to the methods and materials used in corset making, which made the corset affordable to women across the class system. Another change to the industry was the business opportunities it provided for women. By the end of the 19th century, the majority of small and medium-sized corset manufacturers were women. On the eve of the Second World War, women earned $65 million in the corset manufacturing business, which is equivalent to $2 billion today. Over the course of the first half of the 20th century, corset design changed and women began to wear an item known as a girdle. The metal that had been used in the 19th century was not as available as it had been due to the need for metal during World War I, and so a new material known as lycra began to be used. This stretchy material allowed for more movement while still maintaining the much desired hourglass figure. Today's clothes are designed around mannequins shaped along the lines of the corset, and women continue to wear various types of shaping and defining undergarments. Corsets are mainly used for high fashion or for costume, as shown in this image of the celebrity Madonna performing in concert. The attitudes that cause people to wear the corset continue today, as women are still expected to maintain a certain body shape in order to be accepted in society, and they are expected to do so with or without the support of an undergarment, such as the corset or girdle. Many women go to great lengths to achieve what society and they themselves consider the perfect body. Some nearly starve themselves or eat unhealthily. Others undergo extreme exercise regimes, while many women even go under the surgeon's knife to alter their natural looks. The innovation of the corset impacted and changed the lives of its wearers over the course of its 400-year history. Its impacts and changes to women and society were physical, social, psychological, and economic. One thing that hasn't changed, though, is our continuing quest for beauty and acceptance.